Hi everyone and welcome to Bonnie Astrology. Today I'm going to be discussing the full moon in Aries, which is happening on the 17th of October 2024, and of course what it means for your zodiac sign. As always, if you do enjoy this video, don't forget to give it a thumbs up to let me know that you like it. Subscribe to the channel for regular astrology content from me, and if you do want to book any kind of astrological service, all of them are listed on my website, which is linked in the description box below. So this Aries full moon is actually a super moon, and that means that it is that little bit more sensitive. Now supermoons are beautiful because the moon appears to be larger and brighter in the sky, so it is a lovely sight to see, but it can make us that little bit more sensitive, and this full moon is going to be making some very sensitive aspects to Mars and Chiron. So emotional wounding, sensitivity and vulnerability may be on full display, albeit in a little bit of a defensive manner. It is going to be the full moon that wraps up eclipse season of the last half of 2024. Eclipse season next will be in spring of 2025. So we may be finding ourselves reflecting on what has transpired under the previous eclipse season, what has come up for you emotionally or materially under eclipse season. This full moon is going to be at 24 degrees of Aries. So if you have any personal placements in your birth chart, pull up your birth chart and have a little look. 23, 24 or 25 degrees of Aries, you'll be the most impacted by this full moon emotionally. And similarly, if you have placements at those degrees of Libra, Capricorn and Cancer, you may also be the most emotionally affected by this full moon, because this full moon will be making a hard aspect to your personal placements. You can also look and see where it's falling in your chart, but if you use the whole sign system like I do, I will be going into that for the individual zodiac signs in the horoscope section. So let's look at the aspects of this full moon. The ruler of this full moon is Mars in Cancer. Mars is fallen in Cancer, meaning that the energy is not necessarily so direct. The actions that we take are more based on our emotions. They're a little bit more defensive, a little bit more protective, rather than outwardly outgoing or direct, with Mars being in Cancer. And Mars is at a degree which it will retrograde over. So the emotions that come up around the time of this full moon may be triggered again in the new year as Mars goes over this old ground again. Any conflicts that come up at the time of this full moon similarly may go on that little bit longer because of the Mars retrograde period. It may not necessarily be opened and closed right away with this full moon because of that square to Mars. Now the square to Mars means that it's an incredibly sensitive aspect. If you know people that have moon square Mars in their natal charts, they're actually very sensitive. And while it can be slower to anger, it can be also slow to forgive. So with this full moon, there can be tensions brewing, there can be irritability. If so, it may be more so linked to the past or something that has been going on for quite a while, either with a relationship dynamic or just with a person that you encounter at the time of this full moon. It's rarely the thing in the moment that we're angry about. It usually represents some sort of pattern or build up to this point. So you may notice that others are more angry or more irritable or more easily hurt at the time of this full moon. Sorry, I'm just so distracted. There's two bunnies outside my window. They're very cute. So it's hard to be angry or think about anger when you're looking at two bunnies. But this full moon can make you more sensitive, more easily hurt, and it can make others more easily hurt, and it can actually make it easier to hurt others. So do tread carefully with this full moon if you want to avoid conflict. Obviously you cannot walk on eggshells, and it is impossible to go through life without inevitably hurting someone else's feelings or having your own hurt. But just notice under this Aries full moon, people may be that little bit more sensitive and a little bit more irritable. The square to Mars can bring up tension and irritation surrounding family, surrounding property matters, but also with this full moon being in Aries, it can be surrounding the role that we play within the family. That can be a source of vulnerability or sensitivity for many people. You know, Aries is all about the roles that we play. Aries is about our identity and our approach to life, and how that is shaped with Mars and Cancer through our family dynamics. So whether or not you find you have always fulfilled a particular role within the family, where you're feeling a little bit irritated by that, or irritated by the responses that you're getting from family members. Maybe you feel like the black sheep of the family. Maybe for some people, you're feeling underappreciated as the mother in the family. Maybe some of you are feeling frustrated as the father in the family, whatever the case may be. You may be noticing your roles coming up. Maybe you were an only child, maybe you were the middle child, and you have certain emotional responses to that concept or because of that concept within the family. You may become more aware of your role and how that has shaped you and shaped perhaps your relationships as an adult with that opposition to the sun in Libra, which represents partnerships. Now, the sun being opposite Chiron under this full moon, the full moon is conjunct Chiron, and anytime Chiron opposes the sun, oftentimes we have this light shone in our wounding, and it can be quite painful, but they come up for us to explore them. With the conjunction to Chiron of this full moon, oftentimes people find that with Chiron, because it represents our wounds, the wounds that can't be healed, sometimes, because Chiron was the centaur with a gift for medicine, a gift for healing, but could not heal himself. It can be that these insecurities that we have, these vulnerabilities that we have, can actually be wonderful tools to help others. I mentioned it in the October astrology video, but I remember seeing this doctor on YouTube, and he's quite a big doctor on YouTube, and he was mentioning that when he was in medical school, his mother died. I believe it was unexpectedly, but she died in the hospital receiving treatment, and it was the most painful experience of his life. But he believes that it made him a better doctor because he noticed what a patient or a family member of a patient needs in those situations, what the staff are best to do, how they feel about what's going on around them. And he feels it made him a more sensitive, a better doctor to patients in the future. And that's just one example of how he turned his pain into something that was really quite powerful. And a lot of the time with Chiron in Aries, the wounding is surrounding who we are fundamentally, how we see ourselves in our relationship to who we are. So for example, if you see yourself as someone who is very sensitive and you may have been told you were oversensitive at times, you may have found yourself in a profession where you can really help others with your sensitivity, or because of your sensitivity, it maybe made you a better healer, maybe made you a better doctor, maybe made you a better therapist, whatever the case may be. Some of these woundings can come out in our professional life as great tools to help other people, or even in our relationships to other people. So you may notice around the time of this full moon that a wounding or an insecurity is coming up, and I would suggest to you look at it as something that may present an opportunity for you to heal through helping others heal, something that you can actually use to your advantage. With this conjunction to Chiron, it can bring feelings of shame and pain to the surface so that we can transmute them. And I do feel with that conjunction to Chiron, there is that opportunity to transmute them by helping other people heal. You know, if you're a very sensitive person, you may be called oversensitive by certain people, but other folk may really value and appreciate that in your character. So it can come up differently for each of us individually, but it is also an opportunity to heal. It can also make us more empathetic to other people. With this being in the sign of Aries, this can bring about our wounding surrounding where we have been doing battle personally, but it can also make us more empathetic and sensitive to people who are caught up in places of conflict, places of battle. Whether this is on the world stage, it can be, where this is on the world stage, it can be putting a spotlight on war, on conflict, and the people that suffer because of these. And it can be a time where we really notice that collective pain and that empathy for those that are suffering in those circumstances. And it can be then on a personal level as well, where you've been doing battle in some area of your life, whether that be through your relationship to yourself or another person, you can reach a peak moment of emotional catharsis at this time. And you may be more aware of your own battle scars or your wounding when it comes to standing up for yourself, standing up for others, or advocacy with this full moon, because it's in Aries and that's square to Mars, but also that conjunction to Chiron. The wounding that we have, the vulnerabilities that we have can be sources of empathy for others, but they can also be sources of inspiration to help you help others and to heal yourself by helping other people heal as well. With that square to Mars, people may feel that little bit more defensive. If it can make you feel incredibly vulnerable at this time with the conjunction to Chiron. This square to Mars says it can make you feel quite defensive and quite self-protective, and some people only know how to react to those things out of anger and out of frustration. So it may be that you do encounter more angry people than usual, or people who are a bit more irritable, or you may be feeling that yourself. It is also interesting to note that with the sense of labeling going on, certain people feel more embarrassed or ashamed of certain emotions than others. For example, there tends to be more shame when it comes to women feeling anger, and there tends to be more shame when it comes to men feeling sensitive or vulnerable, you know, showing their emotions. It's more taboo for men to cry. It's more taboo for women to be angry, for example. And I think that that's something that we're moving away from in a big sense, but it can also be where you feel the sense of shame for feeling a certain way because someone like you should not. That can be a feeling that comes across at the time of this full moon. But as I say, it can make you more empathetic as well to other people and their suffering. And it can be a tool where you use your vulnerability, your battle scars, your insecurities to help other people. Maybe that's through signing up to a charity. Maybe that's through signing up to be an advocate for something, or whether that is simply being there for someone who's experiencing something similar. Now, one thing that I note about this full moon is that Venus is actually going to be at the anaretic degree of Scorpio. So Venus being at 29 degrees can oftentimes manifest as some sort of crisis or some sort of urgency when it comes to relationships or when it comes to finances. So at the time of this full moon, there can be some sort of need to act when it comes to a relationship or when it comes to a financial situation. 29 degrees of Venus is incredibly karmic. So because the full moon is occurring on the relationship axis, there can possibly be some frustrations and tensions within relationships, particularly one-on-one relationships. But because of Mars in Cancer, it can be in family as well. It's an interesting degree of Scorpio actually, because Venus at 29 degrees comes up in the chart of some quite prominent people. Tiger Woods is someone that has Venus at 29 degrees of Scorpio, and that has obviously manifested for him quite literally when it comes to certain scandals and that are very on point for a Venus in Scorpio at the crisis degree. So his represented numerous affairs that he had within his marriage, and this was something that manifested on quite a big stage for him. And it was quite a moment of reckoning for him, I would imagine. These are not things that have to manifest literally. Does this mean that we could see a scandal surrounding relationships at this time for someone in the public eye? Absolutely. Does this mean that we might be hearing of affairs, infidelities, or crisis points within relationships? I think that is also entirely possible as well, with Venus being at 29 degrees of Scorpio. However, this is going to be in a sextile to Pluto at 29 degrees of Capricorn. So there's opportunities to transform and transmute some karma within relationships. And this may be because you're healing your relationship to yourself with the full moon in Aries conjunct Chiron, and this is affecting then the type of relationships you seek or that you engage with. And Venus and Pluto in this sextile can be a time to overcome and transform any challenging relationship karma that you have been facing, particularly with the South Node being in Libra. So Venus being at 29 degrees of Scorpio can bring a crisis or turning point of some kind when it comes to relationships, which would be an interesting thing to see play out at the time of this full moon. As I say, that sextile to Pluto makes me feel that it can be something that we transform, something that we work through, and something that we overcome more than anything else. But I did think it was interesting to see that in Tiger Woods' astrology chart, interestingly enough. So as always, I'm going to pull a tarot card for this full moon in Aries. Timestamps are listed below for your zodiac sign. I do suggest that you watch the ascendant for the most accurate result. You can watch your sun sign as well. Someone did ask before why, if I suggest watching for the ascendant, I would wish the sun signs a happy birthday when it's their season. And firstly, it's because it's nice to do so. And secondly, a lot of people do watch for their sun sign. Sun sign astrology is a real thing, and it's perfectly fine to do so. I do suggest that the ascendant has the most accurate result in terms of transits, but sun sign astrology is widely practiced, so you can watch either. So let's pull a tarot card for this full moon in Aries. The Four of Cups. So there's a sense of rejection with this full moon where you feel rejected. And we have the Empress underneath. I think a lot of emotions may come up that you don't want to look at under this full moon, emotions that you don't want to feel, emotions that you don't want to engage with, because you may define them as being unpleasant or something that is not necessarily becoming for you to look at. So they can be feelings that are more taboo, feelings that are more shadowy. As I said before, that could be that if you're a woman, you don't want to express your anger or your frustration. Or if you're a man, you don't want to show your sensitive side. You don't want to cry in front of others. It could be anything. And obviously it's going to depend on your individual circumstances. But I do think under this full moon, certain emotions may come up that you maybe don't want to look at because at some point you tried before and you were rejected, or you did not receive a comforting, warm, fuzzy response from others. So it may be that you're looking at your feelings a little bit differently at this time, or you're maybe addressing some emotions that you've not addressed before. I think with this card as well, it can be opening up rejection wounds. And a lot of the time, this can be rejection that is internalized as being personal. And so say, for example, you were interested in a relationship or interested in a job and you didn't get it, or they weren't responsive to you. You may have internalized that as something being wrong with you, when in reality it may more have been a case that there was someone that was already going to get the job, but they had to post it online. Or it could have been that the person was actually already dating somebody. It's just a matter of maybe it was not the right time, maybe it was just not the right person, maybe it was not the right fit. It does not necessarily have to be personal. The trickiness with full moons in Aries conjunct Chiron is that it feels personal. So it may be a time where you're looking at rejection wounds, maybe coming to terms with the fact that you're fine, you're okay. You don't need that person or that job or that thing. It's not that there's anything wrong with you, it is maybe just not necessarily the right fit for you. And this may be a time to reframe rejection, but also to allow yourself to perhaps process the shame or the humility that comes with a rejection of some kind in your life, or perhaps the opportunity to see things that little bit differently. There is actually a sextile from Jupiter at the time of this full moon retrograde in Gemini. So you may actually be able to see things from a higher perspective and reframe your thinking surround particular pain or particular experiences with rejection at the time of this full moon as well. And this can be something that really helps you rise above a pattern or elevate yourself in some sense, that allows you to be a bit more open to what life has to offer or the future itself. So that's what I have for this full moon in Aries. As I say, timestamps are listed below. And if you do want to book a reading, the information listed in the description is the only place that you can get me. Be wary of scammers in the comments. Or if you follow me on Instagram, beware of them in the DMs. They seem, touch wood, to not be as around at the moment. But just in case, you know, I just need you to know that I won't reach out and offer a reading. It would be easier to just go on and book it. And I won't be soliciting it, just so that you know for certain that it's not me reaching out to you and offering you any kind of service. So that is what I have for the full moon in Aries. I hope you have a wonderful full moon, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Aries, welcome to the full moon in your sign. For your sign, this is your horoscope for this full moon. So Aries, this full moon is really bringing the main character energy for you. It is putting the focus back onto you and how you feel about yourself, how you feel about your appearance, your personality, how you feel you show up to the world, your approach to life, and how much you know yourself. Now it's conjunct Chiron, which is the wounded healer. And so you may notice around the time of this full moon that you're maybe feeling painfully self-aware. You could be feeling kind of insecure at moments. You could be noticing your insecurities or your vulnerabilities. These could be things coming up to be healed, and they may also present an opportunity for you to use these perceived character flaws as something to help other people or help you approach life a little bit differently. Maybe to see them differently if you feel you're too sensitive, for example. or you were told you were too sensitive, this might be something that you can bring forward in your relationships to form more supportive connections. It might actually be a wonderful thing. Or you may be noticing where parts of you that you feel insecure about are actually, they're a gift to others in some way, shape or form with the conjunction to Chiron. But I do think for a lot of you, you could be feeling a bit more vulnerable, a bit more sensitive, maybe at times noticing your insecurities or feeling a bit more aware of anything that you perceive to be a flaw. You may also be deciding to let go some sort of mask that you've been wearing or role that you have been playing, Aries. Now it's in a square to your ruler Mars, and Mars is in your 4th house. So you may have had a lot of energy and action, or you may have been preoccupied with putting and investing your energy and time into the home, into a property matter, into perhaps for some of you property development, renovations, DIY, home, your land, your living space, or it could have been you've been putting a lot of energy toward your family. Perhaps you have been taking care of a family member, working with a family member, but this can certainly be a place where you've been putting a lot of energy and effort, and it might be quite a source of irritation at this time. Maybe you're becoming increasingly frustrated with a family member or a situation at home or a DIY project, renovation plan or decor plan or something like that, Aries. You could be feeling a bit annoyed about it. I would also caution against acting impulsively in the home if you're wanting to suddenly tear down a wall or something like that, because the square to the full moon in your 1st house means you could actually injure yourself or hurt yourself. And the conjunction to Chiron may represent needing to heal from this. So go easy if you feel like you want to take out a hammer and, knock something down or pin something up or build something, or, maybe you feel your decorator is too slow, so you do it yourself and you then do yourself a mischief because you're just acting out of a sense of frustration or impatience. Similarly, you could end up quite upset if you do pursue a fight with a family member or they pursue a fight with you. You may feel really quite vulnerable and upset by this. A full moon conjunct Chiron square Mars is sort of one of those situations that you may find yourself in where you get very, very angry and puff up your chest and then you burst into tears 10 minutes later. It's that kind of full moon, this one. So just be mindful of that. A lot of people are feeling irritated, sensitive, and you may be one of those people. And it's easier than usual to feel hurt by others or to hurt others as well. So just bear that in mind. I do think for a lot of you, you're reassessing the role that you play, perhaps within family or maybe within partnership dynamics, with the sun being in your 7th house of relationships. If you and a partner are doing something with the home, you may be feeling like things are a bit out of balance, or you may be feeling a bit upset about the how you're navigating these challenges, these family matters or these home or property matters together, if you are. But I do think for a lot of you, it's coming up in the context of how you feel around other people, how you feel other people project to you, or potentially also illuminating where you may be projecting something onto others. Let's pull you a tarot card. You have the King of Wands, which is very you, natural born leader. You may be feeling under this full moon that you really want to get something going. You may be feeling quite creative. You may be feeling like you really want to make some moves, and you're maybe focusing on your goals, your personal wants, your personal desires, although at times you may feel with that square to Mars that the energy doesn't fully come through. You may be feeling a little bit more energetically unpredictable than usual with this full moon, but I do feel that when you look at anything that's making you feel insecure or vulnerable, it is going to help you reclaim your leadership skills and help you reclaim your sense of self. So you may be letting go of a mask that you wear or a tendency that you have that no longer suits or is just not serving you, something that may actually be hurting you instead, and you may be choosing to embrace under this full moon more authentic ways of being for you. That's what I have for you, Aries, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Taurus, welcome to the full moon in Aries for your sign. So Taurus, this full moon is happening in your 12th house. So this one is pretty behind the scenes for you. It's in a conjunction to Chiron. You might be noticing under this full moon, a lot of you could be feeling a little bit less like yourself. Maybe you're feeling a bit under the weather. maybe you're feeling a bit down, maybe you're feeling a bit sad, and that could be because, you know, maybe with the 12th house you're wanting to be alone more, you're wanting to put yourself into isolation. You could be in isolation, whether that's voluntary or involuntary with the full moon. Sometimes it comes up when we have a bad cold and we have to take some time off work or something of that nature. But it can also, from a mental health perspective, Taurus, be a bit tough at times. The conjunction to Chiron is reflecting the fact that there may be unhealed wounds coming up for review, and these could actually be hidden from you. The 12th house rules the subconscious, so you might notice that in your dreams you're getting some messages, that your dreams could be a little bit more upsetting, but they also bring the opportunity to be healing in some way. You might be noticing around this time that you are noticing things come up that perhaps you thought you had dealt with, you didn't realize bother you, or you may be noticing that you're feeling a little bit more vulnerable or a little bit more fragile at times. As I say, some of you may want to be alone, or some of you may be alone because you're not feeling so well. Some of you may be planning to go to a retreat or travel quite far. I think this is a great full moon for you, Taurus, to address any underlying wounding and shadow work, and that could be coming up because of a conversation. Mars is in the 3rd house squaring this full moon. You could have a tough conversation. Someone could say something that triggers you, for want of a better word, whether it was intentioned or not, and you may be feeling a little bit pained by this, or it may trigger something that you want to look a little deeper at. It could also be that if you're having conflict, it could be with siblings, it could be with neighbors, it could be within your community, or you may be feeling quite frustrated and agitated with the online spaces, you know, what you see on the internet, what you see on your phone. You could be feeling quite irritated with a commute that you take, or your car, or a short distance trip. Or it could be that perhaps, you know, you're in the process of letting go, ending some sort of local connection, local community. You could be leaving a community, you could be leaving a course, something that you're learning with Mars being in the 3rd house. It could be something that you've been studying. It could be something that you read or you hear that maybe upsets you and maybe triggers you a little bit deeper than you anticipated, Taurus. I do feel as well with Mars squaring the Sun in your 6th house, you could likely be feeling quite under the weather. You could be feeling a bit drained. Maybe work is upsetting you. Maybe the people that you work with are annoying you as well, your colleagues, your co-workers. And you may be finding that you're, you know, in your best intentions trying to help or just get on with your day, and someone annoys you or irritates you in a way that actually seems to represent something a little bit deeper. With the full moon in the 12th, it is a place of letting go, it is a place of endings and purging, and a lot of the time it's what we have been deliberately not looking at, or what we just simply haven't been seeing. So whether that is feelings that you've not dealt with, that you've repressed, or whether that is something you've been avoiding looking at, a secret that you instinctively know but you don't want to look at, something of that nature with the 12th house. But with the conjunction to Chiron, Taurus, it is all about healing at this particular time. So let's get you a tarot card. You have Justice. So this is about fairness and balance. You may feel like something in your life is unfair, but you may also equally notice that you want to end something that feels kind of karmic. You've learned the lesson, you want to close a chapter at this time, Taurus. For some of you, this could represent legal matters coming up at the time of this full moon as well. But I think what you're looking at is essentially there could be some consequences for something that has happened in the past that come up under this full moon. Maybe something comes out so that it can be rectified. Maybe something is being rectified by being exposed under this full moon. But it does seem like a lot of you, with, you know, the Sun being in Libra, there could be something coming up to do with law, justice, the courts, legal matters, or something like that, Taurus. That is what I have for you, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Gemini, welcome to the full moon in Aries for your sign. So Gemini, this full moon is happening in your 11th house, and this is to do with groups, your friendships, the communities that you're a part of. To be honest, the full moon being in the 11th house is not so bad. It can actually bring some sort of manifestation of a wish. Oftentimes when we have a full moon in the 11th, it can be a time when you're spending more of your time with friends or a particular group. I do feel for a lot of you with the conjunction to Chiron, though, you could possibly be exploring some wounding that you have surrounding belonging in a group or a community. You may be considering under this full moon how many friends you have or do not have, the social circles that you're in and how much you feel a part of them. You could find that a friend says or does something that maybe hurts your feelings or exposes a wound, or you're maybe exploring a wound surrounding connection and community. Now, it could also be possible that under this full moon, your heart is really bleeding for people that need help with the 11th house. It is very charitable. It could be that you're really wanting to help with a cause. You're feeling very drawn to helping with a cause. With this full moon, you're wanting to take on the role of a hero, with it being an Aries, to help people that need you. So you may actually be getting involved in some sort of charity, and you may be finding that this is very good for your soul. Gemini, it could also be that you're spending more time with friends and you're perhaps bringing forward a healing energy. So whether that is that you're a doctor or a nurse or you're a Reiki healer or practitioner, you could be using your healing skills to help groups of people or friends at this time, or you could be socializing or connecting, deepening friendships with people who fit that description as well, people who are healers in some capacity. And this may be something that's very helpful for you, Gemini. Now, Mars is in your second house of values, your self-esteem, and your money. So with Mars being there, you could be feeling frustrated about a financial situation. You could be feeling frustrated about something to do with money. It could be that maybe you're feeling a little bit challenged when it comes to your values. Say you're having a conversation with a group of people, a group of friends, you might find that you clash a little bit on certain values or certain priorities, or you could be arguing with friends about money. At this time, Gemini, is another way that this could play out for you. This could be money that you're spending at a party, at an event, at a gathering with the sun in the 5th house, at some sort of fun event where you're having a good time, and then there's a bit of a conflict of values, or something happens that challenges your self-esteem or maybe makes you feel a little bit insecure. Our wounding is quite exposed under this full moon essentially for everybody, but it is coming out in different ways, Gemini. But I do think for you, your focus under this full moon is going to be to do with friendships and connections to groups of people. Let's get you a tarot card. We have the 9 of Cups. This is really cute because in this card is actually a group of people sitting around a table drinking wine, and it's the wish card, and the full moon is happening in your sector of wishes. So something may happen under this time where you receive a gift or a wish, or something makes you feel appreciated, something makes you feel good, you feel happy, you feel satisfied with something in your life, Gemini. It's a very positive card. So maybe you are getting together with friends because in this card, they're all together drinking wine and having a nice time. So some of you could be getting together with friends, or you could be really feeling grateful for who your real friends are, feeling very appreciated by the people around you. With this full moon in the 11th, of course, because it's a full moon and it can be to do with letting go, maybe you're letting go of or distancing yourself from some friendships, connections, or social groups that aren't fulfilling to connect deeper with those that are. That's what I have for you, Gemini, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Cancer, welcome to the full moon in Aries for your sign. So Cancer, this full moon is happening at the top of your chart. This is to do with your career, your public image, what you're known for. It can be to do with your reputation, and it can be to do with your goals and achievements as well. So this full moon is in a square to Mars in your 1st house. So for a lot of you, things may have been all systems go. Lately, you might have had to be doing a lot. Mars rules your career, so maybe you've been having to do a lot for your career or your job, or you've had a particular goal in mind that you've been working on, or you've been really passionate about something that you've been doing, or you've been having to use up a lot of your energy. Now, Mars is now in shadow, and it's in a square to this full moon in your 10th house. So if you've been burning the candle at both ends career-wise, Cancer, you may be feeling a bit under the weather. You may be feeling a little bit wounded with Chiron being there. You might be feeling a little bit like you've put in a lot of effort and you're not maybe there's something about this that is painful for you. I think with the square to Mars near first, you could be feeling physically unwell, or you could be feeling like you don't have any energy left for something that you need to do career-wise, work-wise, goal-wise. It's also entirely possible under this full moon that you're encountering some anger or irritation from a boss or an authority figure or work, or you're feeling angry and frustrated about your work. Or your career situation. You might be feeling a little bit like your reputation is under attack, or you could be feeling a little bit frustrated with the way that things are going, Cancer. You may find that people are angry with you, or people are challenging you, or there's just a bit more of an aggressive energy in the air. Similarly, you may also feel a bit frustrated about the allocation of work within the household, your roommates, your family, and how much everybody is doing. Could be something that's frustrating as well. But essentially, under this full moon with the conjunction to Chiron, it's a good time to heal some wounds or insecurities surrounding your career, how you feel about your reputation, what you're known for. This can be a time when you're addressing maybe any self-sabotaging behaviors, I don't know where my voice went there, self-sabotaging behaviors, or perhaps, what is it that they refer to it as? When imposter syndrome. It could be something like that, or any insecurities about stepping into a leadership position, or insecurities or pain surrounding your career. You may just notice some insecurities or wounding is being triggered under this full moon when it comes to your career, and it may be because maybe you can't do all the things that you used to do, or it could be that you're feeling a bit challenged by somebody else, or something of that nature, Cancer. But this would be a good full moon, I think, to rest up, take some time to yourself with Mars being in square in your first house. It'd be a good time to rest and take it easy when it comes to your career, and maybe just look at your career through the lens of, what do I need to heal, what do I feel insecure about, where do I need to take some time to work through my wounding in career. Because I think with Chiron being there, the truth of it is, when it comes to your professional life, there may be something that you're insecure about that is really helpful to other people professionally. So you may be, say for example, you are a tarot reader and you feel quite insecure about, you used to feel quite insecure or an outsider growing up, and then you do it professionally and you can connect with people who felt that way too. It's something like that. It's an obscure example, but it could be that you have something that has contributed a bit of insecurity to your career and you're able to use it now. It could also be that career-wise you're working with doctors, nurses, healers, healing in any capacity at the time of this full moon, or you may be considering that path yourself, or it might be something that you're becoming known for under this full moon as well. Your tarot card, Cancer, was the Wheel of Fortune, which is about decisive energy, good luck. It's about change and fate. So some of you might be having a change of heart when it comes to your career, or a change of direction, or there may be some sort of career opportunity comes up that makes you consider taking a different path and maybe taking a chance in a new direction. That's what I have for you, Cancer, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Leo, welcome to the full moon in Aries for your sign. So Leo, this full moon is happening for you in the house of God, essentially. It's conjunct Chiron, so this full moon has the opportunity for you to illuminate any spiritual or religious wounding that you possess. Maybe depending on your upbringing or your background, it could be a case that this full moon is exposing some wounding or religious trauma that you have, or spiritual trauma. Something could be happening. Say you're attending a particular group, or you're exploring, maybe you're learning about something spiritual or something religious, and perhaps it is reminding you of past experiences, or it's exposing some wounding that you have surrounding maybe education, or some wounding that you have surrounding religion or spirituality. It could also be that you're studying something at this time pertaining to healing. Maybe you're studying medicine, or you're studying nursing, or you're looking into how the body heals, or how, maybe for some of you it's about how trauma is stored in the body. Whatever the case may be, Leo, you may be more interested in learning about different types of healing modalities and practices, whether they be traditional or non-traditional. It could be a case that you're really exploring the concept of healing, and it's something that's fascinating you at this time. You could actually be seeing a healer as well, someone in a healing profession, to learn from them or get their knowledge. Some of you could also be perhaps under this full moon graduating, especially if you're in a healing profession, not necessarily so, but you could be graduating at this time and you could perhaps be feeling a little bit insecure about it with Chiron being there, or a bit vulnerable about it. There is a square to Mars in your 12th house. So some of the things that make you angry at this time, you may not even be so aware of why it is, Leo. You could be feeling quite irritated, or for some of you, I will say you could be feeling quite unwell at this time. Mars going through your 12th, and bear in mind this is part of the wider retrograde cycle. Mars is going to be retrograding in Cancer in January, and this is the shadow period, so you're covering this ground. Some of you could be having on and off pains or aches, or feeling a bit under the weather here and there. The 12th house does rule hospitals and institutions, so some of you could be in and out of hospitals, or, hopefully not in your case, but you could be spending more time in isolation or wanting to, meditate more, spend time in solitude. Some of you could be traveling to long distance, foreign lands with the 12th house. Some of you could be putting your energy in there, and maybe you could be feeling a bit frustrated about visas or travel arrangements, or matters pertaining to those things. Or you could be feeling like you're wanting to learn more. Say for some of you, you are in and out of hospital with a condition, you're wanting to learn more about it. Obviously you would know about that if that's happening. But it could be that for others of you, you're wanting to learn more and more about healing and the connection of mind, body and soul and things like that, or exploring, religious or spiritual trauma for some of you, I think, with the Chiron connection. And it could also be a case that with this full moon being in the 9th, maybe some of you are really feeling very connected to people who are suffering overseas. You're really wanting to help. You're really wanting to learn more about it, help more, and get more information about it, or be able to provide some sort of assistance with this full moon. You could also be feeling a bit irritated or annoyed at a teacher, or you could be feeling a bit irritated or annoyed at university or college, or a mentor or a guru or something like that. Under this full moon, Leo, let's get you a card. We have the Three of Pentacles, so this is beautiful for working together. This is lovely for working with other people. And the sun is going to be in your 3rd house of community. It is in a square to Mars. So for some of you, that could be that you hear information that you weren't meant to hear. Maybe about somebody, you overhear a secret, you overhear a confession, you overhear something that you didn't expect. Maybe to do with a co-worker or a team member or someone that you're connected with in terms of your work. But I do think for a lot of you, Leo, don't be afraid to ask for help under this full moon and seek connection with other people when it comes to making something happen. Mars is going to go into your sign soon, so you may feel a little bit more invigorated, a little bit more energetic. But for now, you might be feeling a little bit tired and feel the need to isolate yourself, but don't cut yourself off completely. That's what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Virgo, welcome to the full moon in Aries for your sign. So Virgo, the full moon is happening in your 8th house, and it is conjunct Chiron. The 8th house is a place, it's a very deep part of our chart, so you may be feeling this quite emotionally. The 8th house is the house of death, and so I'm not saying that's going to happen around the time of this full moon, but because of the conjunction to Chiron being our wounding, some of you may be dealing with a wave of grief or a wave of loss under this full moon, from the past potentially. Grief oftentimes comes in waves at different points. It can hit a person when they least expect it. With the conjunction to Chiron, this one feels particularly vulnerable. So you may be processing some past pain and some wounding surrounding the loss of someone. Whether that be, someone who died, or whether it was a relationship that ended, or even a job that ended. Loss comes in many different forms. And the square to Mars is where you may be feeling angry about how this changed your future, or how this changed what you wanted from the future in some way. Or you may be angry at a group of people at this time, or frustrated with a group of people at this time, Virgo. And it can be from the past. It doesn't have to be recently. It doesn't have to be something that's happening now, but Chiron in the 8th conjunct the full moon can illuminate grief that is already there, or any kind of trauma or emotional baggage that you maybe haven't looked at yet, or you haven't been able to look at with this full moon. It is quite a raw, vulnerable one. And for others of you, this could actually be that this full moon is illuminating your shared resources with another person, whether that be within an intimate relationship or whether that be a financial arrangement with a person or a governmental body, an institution or something like that. There could be emotions running high about that. It could be a time where you're wanting to clear debt, or you're wanting to pay something off, or you could be finding debt or loans quite painful at this particular time, and you could feel really frustrated of how this is challenging your future with Mars being in the 11th, or you could be annoyed, as they say, with a group. With Mars being in the 11th, a group of people or a network or something like that. I think for a lot of you, Virgo, particularly with the connection to your second house of money as well, money could be something that you're maybe feeling a bit frustrated with or a bit annoyed with when it comes to financial plans for the future, or when it comes to partaking in different group activities or getting involved in groups and communities as well. That could be a source of frustration for you, or you could be perhaps arguing with friends about money or shared financial resources or something of that nature, Virgo. Let's get you a tarot card. We have the Two of Coins, a balancing act. So a lot of you are feeling that you have a lot to juggle right now. A lot of you are feeling that you're having to really prioritize your finances at this particular point, prioritize your money. For some of you, because this card actually says balancing act, it could be balancing your checkbook, or it could be, back and forth with a financial advisor, or back and forth with the tax people or something like that. A lot of you could be wanting to get very clear in your finances, maybe pay off some debt, maybe address some financial wounding, financial pain, or even financial trauma from your past as well, Virgo. That is what I have for you, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Libra, welcome to the full moon in Aries, conjunct Chiron, in your 7th house of relationships. So this is possibly for you, Libra, a place where you're feeling quite vulnerable about your relationships, whether that be your relationship status, whether that be your partnership, whether that be your business partnership as well, any kind of long-term relationship that you're committed to. For some of you, maybe you're letting go of a relationship under this full moon. That could be entirely possible for some of you. With the conjunction to Chiron, you're letting go of a relationship and you're trying to heal. For some of you, you're doing some healing work on relationships from the past, or maybe even navigating relationship wounding, such as, your attachment style or how you connect with other people. You may be feeling quite vulnerable about your relationship status. So say you're single, you may be feeling like you really want somebody under this full moon, and you might feel annoyed that you don't have it. Or say you're in a relationship, they might be really irritating right now. It feels like with this full moon being so tense, relationships could be a bit challenging at this point. But with the conjunction to Chiron, in any conflict there can be with a partner, sometimes this offers an opportunity to go a little bit deeper, to be more vulnerable with each other, and then to be closer, depending on how you approach it, Libra. But I think with this full moon and the square to Mars being in your 10th house, a lot of you could be feeling a little bit frustrated or angry about a working situation, about your reputation. For a lot of you, there could be some angry energy at your workplace. A boss could be frustrated with you or angry with you. The people that you work with could be angry at you. You could be having some hits to your reputation, or you could be feeling very motivated under this full moon to work on something work-wise. But with Mars being in shadow, maybe you're just feeling a little bit slower with it. You're not feeling like it's moving as much. And I feel as though with the square being to the full moon in your 7th house of relationships, there could be a particular person at work that is very challenging to you or very frustrating, or there's a bit of anger or animosity going on. It can also be that you're finding it harder than usual, Libra, to balance your relationship and your career. Or you and your partner could be arguing about career, or you could be considering if maybe you're putting so much into your career that you're not meeting anybody, or something of that nature. These could be things that are coming up for you. With the sun being in your 1st house, you should be focusing quite a bit of energy on yourself this season, and focusing on what it is that you want to achieve. What are your goals for the future? What do you want out of life? And you may just under this full moon feel a little bit torn in multiple different directions by people who are either quite angry or quite frustrating at this time. Or you could just be feeling, even if you're not working at the moment, you could be feeling frustrated about your career prospects or your goals or what that situation is for you at this particular moment in time, Libra. You could be feeling a bit unsure about what the future holds there. Let's get you a tarot card. Okay, so we have the Two of Cups, which is to do with loving exchange and loving connection. For some of you, you know, it could be a case where you and your partner are maybe sharing your goals with each other for the future, and there could be some clashes, there could be some things to negotiate. But the Two of Cups is a really beautiful card for connection. So some of you may actually be experiencing this full moon as a time of healing a connection with somebody, healing a connection with a relationship, maybe a past one, maybe a present one, any kind of relationship, but you may be really focusing on connecting with others in a way where you can get in sync. And maybe this is going to be something that's quite healing for you with Chiron being there at Libra. That's what I have for you, and I will talk to you soon. Hi, Scorpio. Welcome to the full moon in Aries for your sign. So Scorpio, this full moon is happening in your 6th house, and so naturally we're going to be talking about your health. The conjunction to Chiron and the square to Mars. Be very careful around this full moon of acting recklessly, impulsively, carelessly, feeling like you can tackle absolutely anything at this point, because you may actually injure yourself or hurt yourself, or you may put your body under the sort of strain and stress that it reacts quite badly to. You could be finding under this full moon that you're under the weather, you're not feeling totally well, or you actually are maybe encountering an injury. With it being in Aries, I feel this may be through physical force, going to the gym or something like that. So just be mindful, you're more likely than usual at the time of this full moon to hurt yourself or do yourself a mischief if you push too hard at this time. So be mindful of that. It can also be a time where some of you are maybe with the full moon getting some results when it comes to health testing, or you could be getting some information about health matters. And this could kickstart a healing process for you, something that you're wanting to heal and work on. With Chiron being there, the likelihood of healing is pretty important, but the square to Mars, your ruler, is making me think, Scorpio, that possibly you're not really that pleased with whatever it is, because you may have to change something. So whether that is that you have to change something you've been working on or putting a lot of physical energy to, maybe that's how much you go to the gym or how much you run or what you're eating, you may feel a bit annoyed at something you have to do for the greater good, something you have to do for the higher perspective. It could also be at this time that you're getting a lot of information and knowledge that could be surrounding your health that maybe feels a little bit initially overwhelming. You know, say for example, you're doing a health plan or you're getting results, you could get a lot of information with it and you're not entirely sure where to look. For some of you, you could just be feeling under the weather, as I say. Others of you, this could be more to do with your co-workers, your working environment. They could be very annoying at this time. They could be very irritating. Someone could be leaving the workplace. Someone could be joining the workplace occasionally with a full moon, but it's really exposing your working environment and maybe what is not working, what is frustrating you. Be mindful under this full moon of getting into arguments with co-workers about foreign affairs, about religion, politics, those type of things, because it could get quite messy and it could result in some sort of loss or some sort of ending, with the sun being in the 12th house. So just be mindful of getting into disagreements with people that you work with, or even disagreements with people in the gym or in the doctor's office or something like that, Scorpio, because arguments could be quite intense under this full moon and they may not go very well from a professional standpoint, Scorpio. So let's get you a tarot card. Oh, the Nine of Cups popped out. I think it was Gemini had this as well. This is to do with emotional fulfillment, and it is also sometimes referred to as a wish card. So this might be a time when you're finding something, maybe you're getting some information under this full moon that could actually be quite fulfilling for you in the long run. You could be finding something that you really like to do, something you like to do independently. For some of you, you could also be getting a pet with the full moon in the 6th house. Some of you as well, if your pet is acting strange, do take them to the vet, because they could have something wrong with them, obviously. The conjunction to Chiron makes me think that if they're showing signs that something's wrong, they could have a wound or an injury just with this full moon. But I do think with this Nine of Cups, you may be getting some fulfillment from taking care of yourself and how you take care of your physical health, Scorpio. That is what I have for you, and I will talk to you soon. Hi Sagittarius, welcome to the full moon in Aries for your sign. So Aries, this full moon centers around your 5th house. It's conjunct Chiron. So I'm just going to address for those of you that have children, what this could mean for you first, and then go into the other areas that this could play out as. The full moon conjunct Chiron in the 5th house. Some of you could have an unwell child at home. Your child could have a cold or flu under this particular full moon. For some of you, it could be that you're finding out that you're pregnant, or you could be giving birth under this full moon. And the concept of children could be bringing up some wounding from the past. For some reason or another, my algorithm keeps showing me Eminem, and whenever I see a celebrity come up all the time, I look up their birth chart naturally, and he's a Sagittarius rising, but he's just found out he's going to be a grandparent, so that might be the case for some of you. But he was talking about how he raised his children a certain way because of how he wanted to do things very differently to how he was raised and parented, because he had a very tough childhood. He wanted to do things so differently, and it was reminding me of this full moon being conjunct Chiron, how sometimes when people have children for the first time and they did not have a good childhood, it can bring up a lot of complex emotions and feelings from the past. And that would be a Chiron wound in this case, where you want to use your wounding to be helpful to someone else, in this case your children. So maybe for some of you, you are addressing wounding from the past with your inner child because of your relationship to your own children. It may be a case also that you are just simply doing some inner child work under this full moon, Sagittarius, listening to what your inner child wants and doing some healing work there, especially if you did have a tough time growing up. For others of you, if it's nothing to do with children whatsoever, this could be a time where you are actually feeling that you're working through some creative wounding, some wounding in your talents, your creativity, some insecurity surrounding your talents and your creativity, what you love to do, how you express yourself, what you do for fun. And it can also be just simply what brings you joy and wounding that you feel surrounding being excited, surrounding being happy, and surrounding having a good time. Some people have a lot of shame around enjoying themselves, and this could be something that you're looking at under this full moon. It is in a square to Mars in the 8th, so this could be shame surrounding intimacy in relationships, intimacy in romance, romantic relationships could be something that you're working on healing or working through healing at this time, Sagittarius, as well. But it could be too where you're potentially working through some pain surrounding sharing with other people. I feel like for a lot of you, this may manifest literally as where there are childcare arrangements or payments or shared parental responsibilities with someone that you're maybe not with anymore, and they pay child support or something like that, or you get money from the government for your children. There could be a source of frustration there. Finances and children could be a source of irritation or tension at this time, Sagittarius, or you could just be feeling that maybe there's a bit of tension with your children in your life as well, for some of you. Let's get you a tarot card. We have the King of Coins. This is to do with, it's usually representative of an earth sign, so a Taurus, Virgo, Capricorn person, but this can also be to do with shared financial resources. This can be bankers, this can be taxes, this can be government with Mars being there. Potentially you are frustrated about some sort of debt, some sort of financial arrangement, or that could be something that's taking a bit of center stage at this time, Sagittarius, working on your finances, working on your career, and maybe getting your books in order with the square to Mars in your 8th house. That is what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Capricorn, welcome to the full moon in Aries for your sign. So Capricorn, this full moon is happening in your 4th house of home, family, property matters, your heritage. The conjunction to Chiron means you might be exploring some ancestral trauma or lineage wounding or family wounding. You may also be exploring some inner pain or feel quite triggered from memories from the past or your upbringing or where you grew up, or something of that nature with the conjunction to Chiron. You could also be finding your family at this time are, for whatever reason, maybe a bit of a source of pain, or they could be hurting your feelings at this time or upsetting you. It feels as though you could be perhaps quite worried about family, or you could be finding them to be quite challenging as well at this time. But emotions they're running high surrounding home, family and property matters for a lot of Capricorn risings. I have Saturn squaring my Mercury right now, by the way. I am not sounding so great in the way that I speak. I feel like Ralph Wiggum when he says, "Me fail English, that's impossible." That's me with Saturn squaring my Mercury. So apologies that I'm not sounding so sharp right now. There's a square to Mars in your 7th house of relationships. So for some of you, there could be a bit of tension or frustration when it comes to your partnerships, your close relationships and your family. So it could go either way, where maybe your partner and your family are not getting on, or you and your partner are disagreeing about the home, about family. It could also be a case where maybe there's tensions with your partner's family, some sort of argument or tension comes up between a partner of yours and a family member, or perhaps surrounding property or what you're doing around the home, or maybe you're disagreeing with your partner about how to raise kids, or where you're going to live, or where you're living, or something happens around the house that annoys you. Maybe your partner breaks something of yours that you really like. It could be a source of tension coming up at this time, Capricorn, as well. Mars in the 7th certainly means that a lot of your energy is going towards partnerships and relationships. And they don't have to be romantic. It can be connections, long-term relationships in your life with other people. Your best friend, for example. But there could be tension with your family, or with your living situation, or something to do with the home, or something as well to do with, land, children, how you were raised. You could be disagreeing with someone over a sensitive topic in your life. Emotions are definitely running high at this time, Capricorn. And some of you may also find, with the sun being in your 10th house, that there's some disagreements about your work life with your partner. Maybe your partner feels you're always at work, or there's a disagreement about a goal, or a disagreement about a plan for the future, or there's some sort of frustration when it comes to your career or your partner's career at the time of this full moon. Your tarot card, Capricorn, is the 7 of Wands. It's in reverse, and it says licking your wounds. This is conflict avoidance. So some of you might not want conflict at all, and you might be avoiding it actively at the time of this full moon. You could also be wanting to make amends with somebody, or compromise with someone, because it's the 7 of Wands in reverse. When the 7 of Wands is upright in this deck, it actually says, haters gonna hate. It's my life, don't back down. So some of you could be, going the opposite way and making a stand or facing something head on. But I think for a lot of you, you might actually think, this is not my battle to fight. That may be the case for a lot of you, Capricorn. That is what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Aquarius, welcome to the full moon in Aries for your sign. Aquarius, this full moon is happening in your 3rd house. So this represents how you think, your mindset, your intellectual capabilities. It also represents siblings in your local community, and short distance travel, your commute, your car, and also your phone and your laptop and gadgets and things like that. So the conjunction to Chiron means one of these things may need a bit of fixing or a bit of healing. So maybe your phone needs to be fixed, or your car needs looked at, or a gadget needs looked at. And for some of you, maybe with the square to Mars, it could be that you're having to let go of it altogether, you're having to replace it. But with the conjunction to Chiron, I think for a lot of you, you just simply might need to get something fixed when it comes to, a gadget, maybe your phone, maybe your car. Well, a car, is a car a gadget? I don't know. It's a vehicle, basically. The 3rd house rules vehicles. So it could be that. But I think for a lot of you as well, this could be bringing up some wounding surrounding a sibling, surrounding the sense of community that you have, your neighborhood, how you feel you belong in your community, how you feel you integrate in your community, how you get along with your siblings. They could be people who are sharing something with you that's quite painful. For others of you, it could be something as simple with Chiron as realizing you have a neighbor who is a healer, or a doctor, or a nurse, or some kind of healer. It could be traditional or non-traditional, or you could be seeing someone locally that is a healer, getting a new local doctor, or you could be going to a Reiki lady that lives nearby, or something of that nature. Aquarius, but I feel like this is putting the spotlight on your local neighborhood and healing. You could be more interested in your local community and your local neighborhood with this full moon in the third house. You could be really interested in what is around you, but I also feel there could be a sense of pain coming from it. There's a sense of wounding with Chiron, something that you want to heal, something that you want to work on. Maybe a sibling shares something with you that they're going through that's quite distressing or upsetting for them. But it could also be that they're annoying you, because we do have a square to Mars in your 6th house. So the square to Mars in your 6th house, Mars in your 6th house is usually a time where we're very active physically. We want to spend more time in the gym, doing exercise, doing sport, taking care of our health. We may be working more than usual. Work might be demanding more of us. You could find that you're frustrated because maybe you need to work on a project and your phone glitches, your laptop gives out, or you need to get to work and your car breaks down or something like that. It could be irritating for you, Aquarius. But I also think there is the potential here for some Aquarians to realize that they have some wounding surrounding their own mindset and their own abilities to maybe make appointments on time or get organized or, you know, get things right. There could be a little bit of wounding surrounding your intellectual capacity, your abilities intellectually. You could be shaming yourself, or you could be noticing some wounds come up that maybe go back to school, you know, your early days, where maybe people told you because you didn't process information a certain way, you were wrong, or, you know, the way the schooling system's very specific on what is and what isn't right in the classroom, and that can be quite traumatizing for kids that don't learn that way. So it could be a case where you're maybe exploring some deeper wounding surrounding how you process information, how you work as well. So be careful of beating yourself up if things go wrong around the time of this full moon, Aquarius. Gonna get you a tarot card. You have the Chariot. So for a lot of you, something could be coming up with your car. Maybe some of you are getting a new car under this full moon, or maybe some of you are selling your car, buying a car, or you're taking a short trip for a lot of you with the 3rd house. But this is where you're taking forward action and your chariot awaits, so to speak. So I do think for some of you, it could be focus on a car or focus on a short distance trip, or just taking control of a situation and not beating yourself up for it going wrong in the first place. Could be quite healing for you at this time too, Aquarius. That's what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon. Hi Pisces, welcome to the full moon in Aries for your sign. So Pisces, this full moon is happening conjunct Chiron in your 2nd house of finances. It is not just the house of finances though. It can rule your possessions, it can rule your self-esteem, your self-confidence, your values. But essentially this full moon is illuminating any wounding that you have surrounding these areas. So maybe some wounding. Chiron can be, it can bring up feelings of shame. So maybe some shame you have surrounding spending or saving habits, surrounding your finances. Maybe noticing under this full moon how your spending habits are connected to your self-esteem. Or maybe you, when you're feeling insecure, you buy more, or you perhaps are practicing financial avoidance and you're not looking at your finances. You could be dealing with some wounding surrounding money essentially, but it could also just be dealing with feelings of insecurity in general when it comes to your self-esteem. With this full moon, it has the opportunity to illuminate these things. And as I said in the intro, sometimes with Chiron, the things that you deem to be shameful about yourself or that you don't like about yourself, you know, whether that be, for example, you're too sensitive, these things can end up being gifts to other people in your professional life and part of how you make money. So say, for example, you were told you were too sensitive, you were hypersensitive, but that ends up being a great quality for an empathetic doctor or a healer of some kind, someone who is sensitive to what their patients are experiencing or their clients are experiencing. So it can actually be with this full moon that you're realizing certain things that you're insecure about can actually be quite helpful to other people. I think with the square to Mars in your 5th, some of you may want to be taking a risk or taking a gamble when it comes to love, when it comes to romance, when it comes to your creativity or your art or your self-expression or what you do for fun, but you may feel a bit insecure about doing so. So maybe you're thinking, I'd love to put myself back out there again, but I don't know that they will accept this about me. or what if they reject me or something like that. Or maybe you're wanting to put your art in an exhibit and you're thinking, well, what if nobody buys anything? You know, you kind of have this want to take a risk, want to try something new, want to do something that you think might make you happy, but you feel a little bit insecure about trying it, doing it, initiating it. And that could be a real source of frustration, irritation, and anger for you right now, Pisces. It may also be the case that if you have children or there's children in your life, they could be quite annoying or irritating right now. And or if you're pregnant, you could be feeling a bit uncomfortable right now with Mars being in the 5th. And it's square to Chiron in your 2nd house, but this full moon could be saying it's making you feel a bit insecure. You know, children can be quite brutally honest. Maybe they say something to you that triggers an insecurity within you, or maybe they say something that hurts your feelings, or maybe you're feeling, you know, maybe you're pregnant and your feet are swelling and you're looking at your feet and it's making you upset. I don't know. But it's kind of one of those situations where you may find that children or could be upsetting you or triggering a wound within you. Or it could be that you're feeling insecure about your art, your creativity and your talents, or your love life. And you're feeling like there's something fundamentally wrong with you. You need to use this full moon to heal, Pisces. Everyone does with the conjunction to Chiron. It's about addressing old wounds and seeing how these actually make you something special with Chiron. As Chiron was the wounded healer who, although he could not heal himself, he used his gifts of healing to help other people. So let's get you a tarot card, Pisces. We have the Ace of Coins. This is really funny because in this deck, it is a hand putting lots of money on the table and there's leaves growing out of it. So some of you could actually figure out under this full moon how to be more financially stable, how to be more financially secure. Some of you could have some money coming in under this full moon. You could be getting paid, for example, or you could be getting a pay raise. And you could be also investing your money into something healing. Maybe you're investing your money into seeing a private doctor, or maybe you're investing your money into seeing a Reiki healer or something of that nature, Pisces. You may be putting your money into something that will be healing for you in the long run. That is what I have for you, and I'll talk to you soon.